From deep behind the enemy lines of FEMA Region 3, you're listening to the Powder Monkey Podcast on PirateInfoWars.com.
Episode 49 of the Powder Monkey Podcast. The title of this episode today is The Gates of Hell. And so why would you wonder why I would title it that? Well, my guest today is Tim Lassley. He is an info warrior. He is one of the most vocal opponents of the Gates Foundation and the agenda that has been set forth. So, Tim, thanks for coming on. I'll let you maybe start by just telling us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Hi, how's everybody doing? Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. About myself. Well, I kind of was surfing the fringe of reality for the longest time, back and forth from the establishment. The establishment's always offered hypocrisy, and that's something that just rubbed me wrong. You know, hypocrites and me, now we're always in some way, some form. So, you know, I was kind of like lost in reality, and then one day somebody told me that there was fluoride in the water, and I'd already spoken to my grandfather about all that stuff, and so I already knew what fluoride did, and so I did a fact-finding mission, and in that midst of fact-finding, I saw Alex Jones, and wow, you know, you never seen anybody come forward with such authenticity in their voice, you know, and I'm always listening for tone, for inflection and lies and stuff like that, seeing how people handle themselves. And this guy was just like, there's no way it was scripted. You know, it was poetry, stream of consciousness, and he was able to get out all the facts, and I was just listening. But it's still at the same time, I was still deeply rooted in my leftist ideology, you know, because I was part of the herd as much as I didn't want to be. But, you know, it's kind of like, you know, just walking in the cold, you want to be warm, but you get cold too. So I did some research and come to find out that everything that he was saying, because I was kind of searching for a topic to talk about in a book, you know, and I didn't really know but this guy it was just like a great idea. It's like, I can write a book about nuts on the internet. And so, but unfortunately, Alex was 100% right. And so in the process of listening to Alex, he's always going about, you know, the activism in the 3D world, what we can do when you are the resistance. And I agree 100%. You know, like, not because I used to be a leftist, but because I know that public opinion and in great crowds and great masses, you know, it affects history. You know, it's done it before. Whether or not it can get co-opted later on down the pipe, that's you know, out of our hands. We just have to instill in the next generation, you know, what to look for. But, you know, I just thought that, you know, let's get our voices out in the street. So I joined the We Are Change stuff that Luke Rudowski had set up nationwide back in the day. And then when Ron Paul ran for president in 2012, not in 2009, like was said, I became a delegate. Was a Republican PCO in the 17th district. So I just kind of like, you know, put my, you know, I'm trying to get as many people aware as possible, not necessarily about, you know, politics. You know, I don't really care about politics because that's nothing that I have any control about. What really concerns me is our lack of informed consent and the obliteration of the human genome in real time. That stuff that's alarming.
It's insanely alarming.
Yes, it is. And it's all about, just people's lack of information or their normalcy bias to misinformation and how they've been programmed and triggered because, there's so many layers of psyop that these people are indoctrinated under. It's just going to take, like, what do you do? How do you brand survival to each individual? And so I just went on a journey trying to figure out how to do that. That's me.
You mentioned the fluoride in the water. Was that your epiphany, that your moment, that or what was your? I always like to ask my guests, where was that moment? When was the moment you realized that that it wasn't just a theory, that it was that it was happening? What was that moment?
When I connected the dots in my head that it couldn't have been happenstance, and when it was the fluoride, because that's heinous, robbing people of their human potential. Now think about that. Just wrap your
Absolutely.
mind around it. I mean, you're just yeah, no, there's no, I don't even think we can calculate the losses we've endured already. But to me, it was like, holy crap, you're poisoning children. You're killing grandpa. You're killing grandma. What's going on? And you have to have known this is happening, and it's all for profits. And then when you find out that the concentration camp victims in Nazi Germany were also fluoridated, and you start piecing the pieces together and connecting the dots, and I think that was it when I confirmed that it was done deliberately. And I had spoken to many people, and I'm an average Joe. You can't. There's no schools in this world that have taught me other than the streets. Just
Right.
And but I'm smart enough to know how to read an MSDS sheet, and so that right there, when I got more and more people giving me the confidence to pursue this, because it is serious and it is happening, and you start learning how to swim through the gaslight, because gaslit 100% all the way through, and a lot of people probably fall to the wayside because their argument isn't as strong as the gaslight is. And so I think it was the fluoride, and then the chemtrails on top of it. That was probably the next big thing. But I just went down the list and confirmed it all to be true, and then then it just came put up or shut up.
You do a lot of man on the street pieces. What are some, as far as the takeaway, the overall takeaway, reality versus your perception of it going into it? Is there anything that sticks out to you as far as just the general public, where they are in this walking dream that everybody's in?
Walking dream.
I mean,
they're fully immersed in it.
They are.
Yeah, they're fully immersed, and it's like how the Matrix describes it. They're agents and notice just to defend the system, and it's the system that they identify with. They are human beings in this system. That's all they know, and I have a lot of pity for that, because when you love your captor and you allow yourself to be sacrificed to that, that just means you're truly lost. I mean, there's a lot of negative emotions that come to defending that position that they have, but still, you have to. I mean, they're Americans, they're human beings. I was once one of them. I was once poisoning myself, willy nilly, thinking that a little bit of here, a little bit there, it's come on, it's harmless, thinking. Sure. Buying the boomer, because the boomers, they really set the boomers up, and their indoctrination was really powerful, at least where I was growing up. And so I had no hope until I found out that there was fluoride in the water, because there's no fluoride in the water in Portland, Oregon at all. And we know why. And so, once I found that out, that was pretty much my linchpin, because as the average Joe that I am, I spent a lot of time working at grocery stores and just, having a lot of interaction with pretty much a lot of the public. And
sure,
a lot of the public act the same way. They eat the same foods. You know, they have the same emotions. They're eating the same foods. And it dawned on me that it was just like this mass poisoning through the food supply. You know, that's always been my big thing. You know, back before Trump and COVID and all that other madness and stuff like that. You know, there was always GMOs, there was always Monsanto, there was glyphosates, there was that stuff to rally people behind, and that's what I was trying to get. You know, it's not politics. You know, being in a concentration camp, that's not a political stance. You know, we're just in a concentration camp, and you could either think that it's harmless and die, or because one, there wasn't a bridge for people to cross, because that's kind of what I want to build, is a bridge, of ideas, because I'm not so different from them and they're not so different from me. It's just we have to build that kind of connection neuron network between both factions to figure out how to climb ourselves out of it, because I don't want to like spend 20 years fighting Americans because of all this bullshit.
Sure.
I don't think it does. And we're the largest standing army right now. We just don't know it. As far as like human beings ever to have walked the earth, the population that has been lied to and manipulated and poisoned is the largest standing army ever. We just don't have the weaponry, but we definitely have the numbers.
Right. You mentioned the Nazis and the concentration camps. I've heard you talk a lot about Nuremberg and with informed consent, and I agree 100% that a Nuremberg 2.0 is where we should be headed. One of the most alarming things to me, it's not the nukes, man. It is that the fact, Tim, that we're getting no coverage, that the Biden administration paid millions of dollars, up and down the line to influencers, to media outlets, legacy media, all to push this narrative. And that is the linchpin moment for me, where we truly are far beyond anything Orwell could imagine, or Huxley. I mean, we're there, dude. We're past it, and I don't know that there's a point of return. You talk about everybody together.
Yeah, no, I don't believe there is a point of no return. I don't believe, and I don't want to go back. I don't.
No,
we want to go back to that mediocrity, and that they just kept feeding us the same, 10 songs, 10 movies over and over again until we just basically gave up and it broke our will.
Right.
My kids and your kids and their kids are going to always be subjected to what? The newest Star Wars, newest Marvel thing, just enough to keep us bedazzled. That's not life. That's imprisonment. That's not creativity. That's just like a daycare center of some wicked, it's just, I don't want to go to the system that they decided to build around us. I know that we're far better once we're not toxic.
I kind of see it as a cancer, Tim, and I think a lot of people have related to it, that, but there was a point. See, I enjoyed the pop culture growing up as a kid. I enjoyed the thought of being a hero
because of the fact that it was awesome, or did you enjoy it because of the fact that was the only thing there?
One thing that rang true with me always, and because it was awesome, was that freedom is the right of all sentient beings. Optimus Prime. I think when you get to that point, I think that's the message. If we're instilling something in kids, but then again, there's a lot. There's a whole nother show that we could talk about with how they relax the laws, and we're allowing to push propaganda to kids through marketing and everything and television shows. Yeah, that's a whole nother rabbit trail. But
they set it up. There's definitely a historical marker for everything that they've done that leads us up to today.
But they like to brag. And, one thing that I like even now, I was on the American Journal as a call-in. I talked to Harrison about some predictive programming, and you mentioned the food and the GMOs. Well, in Logan, You know, it doesn't sound like you watch much of it, but they like to talk about it up to the point where they talk about how they what actually killed all these, literal super beings among men was the food that they ate, what they put in the food that they ate. You know, not a shot was fired. You know, no epic battle, no snap of a finger. Just take your next bite.
They waited it out. They knew how long it would take, and they waited it out.
But that spirit that is behind all of that, we know what Hollywood is, and we know what kind of spirit is behind that. So if we look at that, and this came out years before everything unfolded what we've seen over the last few years. So when we see that, and they talk about the what the nanotech that they're putting in the food, and then years later you look back on it and you think, my God, they told us this and we didn't even see it.
Well, it wasn't supposed to be a message to like, hey, we're going to deal with this. I mean, we weren't conditioned. They didn't tell us. I mean, they told us, and we have adopted their language in that. I mean, that's them telling us, but really that's just a damn movie that I watched,
Right.
And I didn't expect that I was going to have to like what, you're going to what? Wait, no, that was just a damn movie I watched.
Exactly.
I told you. No. I don't care what you think you did, but this is wrong. And no, we told you. No, you did not. We didn't vote on this. This was
Exactly.
a formal discussion. We sat in the dark and laughed our asses off at a movie. That's not informed consent.
Sure.
That's like right there. I mean, that's the dog training that they put us under. And we've kind of adapted their language in a sense where they do tell us, but how are we supposed to build a defense against a movie?
I think collectively we've even gotten to the part. I mean, when you have people like Klaus Schwab, sitting up there openly talking about what is happening, we've gone to the point that, like I said, it's they just want to flaunt it at this point. It's just it's the treasure. It's their they're basking in all this glory and all this power. But it's bad news when the zombies actually turn. I've seen that part of the sci-fi thriller as well. And when the zombies actually turn and the eaters are on you, and it's going to be, and I just I can't believe that we're here, man. I can't believe that it's. I mean, I knew that it was coming. Everybody, if you regardless of what faith you have, I mean, everybody has some kind of scenario. But I just it's just kind of surreal to actually see that we're here, Tim, and. But you
always supposed to be here. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely. So let's talk about talking about the gates of hell and the foundation. There's been some cracks in the foundation, with Melinda Gates, and so I mean, talk about the hammering that you do there, and you are a hammer. So talk about that specifically, and give us some just some frontline experience, some frontline.
Well, the conception of this was that I had so much effect with the bullhorn against Antifa, and it was. I mean, they really just don't like the truth being just spat in their face louder than they are.
Right.
And so I figured down that same pipe, I couldn't really engage Antifa at a certain point. They became so mad, so violent that any type of interaction with them, was like, I could have been killed, and a lot of people that were engaging with Antifa in Seattle, we did it regularly every week. We got them arrested every week for like 5 weeks in a row before Chaz even became anything. And then, so that was my main focus in Seattle because I wanted to get it cleaned up. And then all of a sudden, Event 201 happened, and it was right after Chaz, and there was a lot of like aftermath after Chaz. It was kind of like why go to a smoldering crater?
Right.
It's no point. Let them pick up the pieces for a while and see how they come back in their community. And it seems to be just as dirty as it was before, but a little bit cleaned up. It's a little safer. side story behind that. We did a March for Freedom chalk walk. We've been spreading this COVID truth throughout Seattle. We don't give Seattle much leeway. You know, we're always in one neighborhood or the next, every city, around, or every week. Just spreading the facts, making sure that the cognitive dissonance doesn't really take hold, or at least we're trying to, at least, And we went through Capitol Hill, and they're pretty violent. They were probably the second violent neighborhood in Seattle, Ballard being first. But a lot of the Seattle police officers came up and just shook my hand, and they said, "Thank you very much for your help last year." And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem," And the only reason why I think they did that is because I made Antifa riot with the bullhorn. We'd do unpermitted marches in Chaz before it was Chaz. And I made them riot basically every week and get them arrested. And the cops got a really good taste of what Antifa was. So I think that's what it was. But then once Chaz hit and Event 201 had happened, I was effing livid. I knew Gates was connected, and I knew that the paper would all come out, and I knew that the researchers around the world were gonna, pull him apart, But he was in my city, and
Right.
and I was just effing livid at the time, and I was just like, you know what, this is what we need to do. We just need to stage a protest, and maybe create some noise for the world, and give them a hoorah about what's going on in the world, like kind of like light a torch, and get people active, because it was going to get a lot worse when they started talking about lockdowns, and you knew the forced vaccinations were going to happen, because the liberals were going to have such a visceral reaction and in fear. They're already traumatized, and they're already primed for after the riots. They'd already been so hyped up. That's what like the Nazis did with
Sure.
their torch riots, or their torch marches, right? They make a march at night and with torches, and so they were ready to go. And so Event 201 happened, and then COVID stuff, and so I just set off with the bullhorn in front of the Gates Foundation and made a big sign with all the talking points, hoping that people would show up for discussion. I mean, I'm always trying to project myself onto people, thinking that common sense would win out. Oh, by the way, there's already an opposing narrative. What are you saying? But no, it was more like a visceral hatred, because it was right wing this, right wing that. I could see it in their eyes, a lot of middle fingers.
Right.
And so, go ahead.
That's been the thing too, is they can't argue the point. It's not that the point we have is valid. They have to go after some type of perceived imperfection within us, that our ideology. Oh, it's right wing, like you said, and that's where we hit that programming, that block.
Exactly, it is a programmed response. Good call, because I think what happens is that once they see that the programming over television has already rewired their minds, so they're not thinking, you're just going off of synapses and like already installed
muscle memory.
Yeah, so it becomes like their parrots for whatever television show, and a lot of the workforce does that, man. They just act like the TV character that they love the most. It's retarded. So, yeah, I just set off, and I mean, especially after Alex dropped that interview with Dr. Francis Boyle about the gain of function research,
right,
on labs, and I already knew the Gates was connected to that, because Jones had already covered that information back in 2016, 2017, 2015, when it was happening fresh. And with researchers like myself, apparently we get a lot, there's a huge network of people just sending information left and right, and we're always getting these information, these articles, trying to save it on our bookmarks, trying to, like, oh, this is going to come in handy later on, watch. And, so we
Sure.
knew, and I just decided to keep going. Like, I just wanted to keep going. The worse it got, the harder it got for people. The death toll, the TikTok nurses really drove me nuts, man. That was so hard. I mean,
yeah.
I think it was the TikTok nurses that put me over the edge. Like, no, nobody gets a victory lap here. There's got to be something I can do. And so I've got this loud bullhorn, or I got two of them now. But I had that loud bullhorn that, had such an effect over Antifa, so I figured I would just, show up and start ranting on the mic, And after a while, I didn't really want, because I'm pretty angry when I get on the bullhorn and I'm engaging with the left, because it's very irritating, it comes out, and so after a while, I was just like, well, I'm going to stop ranting on the bullhorn and I'm just going to play what they need to know.
Right.
And so I just started playing full interviews, videos, mostly Greg Reese, because Greg Reese, he's hitting like dingers every time. And, I'll play him like 5 times in a row, 6 times in a row and pick. And then I started reading the Nuremberg Code, because, it's really nice to have a human being read that to you.
Right.
Oh, and I'm trying to reach out to him. I'm not trying to alienate myself. I'm not trying to point it out. I'm just trying to make them think. And, the Nuremberg Code is so essential. It's literally international law. I think it's got more power to it than the Constitution. And it comes from that same line where a bunch of people got together and figured out what they needed to say, put it on paper, make sure that nobody else could do anything. And we all, so when that went out the door, with people and they didn't realize it, it just, I don't know, man. Zombie world, right? Clown world, they all acquiesce their human rights. And so come what may, I'm just going to keep going back. And then I started getting a lot of feedback and stuff from people around the world, at least in America, a couple of people from India, and they were just stoked that somebody's there. And so that's why I'm doing it, is because there's got to be at least one person.
I agree, man. And that's, that's the thing is at this point that I think out of this whole COVID thing, I guess you had mentioned your point, your stress points and everything like that, and when it got so crazy for you. But I think one of the biggest things for me, one of the hardest things for me was once I realized what had happened, that it was a psychological operation. That mask, that I couldn't do the mask. I couldn't. It was. I snapped on an old lady near Christmas time going into a Kohl's or something like that, and I had to stop myself once I walked through. I kind of had to de-escalate and say, this isn't me. I can't allow this to happen to me. I just have to say no and face it. Then I can't worry about that specter of, oh my God, what if they get mad? Let's just take off the mask. Let's just say fuck you. And then let's cross that bridge if I have to come to it. But
over it, man. I mean, they trapped me. I mean, I was like, I don't sleep well, and so I woke up with a pretty big headache, and I just didn't want to go to work. It's just like, no, I'm calling, and I got a headache, and they said that was a symptom. I'm like,
yeah.
What do I got to do? And so I tricked my way into getting a COVID test within an hour. And, because you literally just show up in line and you fill out the application. I'm not trying to, that's what I did, and then I just gave them the order number and they just gave me the test. I was like, all right. Of course it came back negative because I don't have COVID, but then I was like, well, now I've got the Willy Wonka golden ticket, because now how do you refute my logic here? And this is all just it's an IQ test, man. It's an IQ test.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a test of will. And I'm like, all right, because they're not going to break me. Never. I'm not going to be. I'm always going to swim upstream, no matter. Whatever. What happened?
I'm here.
I don't know. Okay.
You good?
No. There we go. I just now seen your video. So I'm always going to try to swim upstream and make sure that I feel good inside about my efforts. Fuck y'all. And so I took the mask off and they started yelling at me, and I'm like, look, it's not even really enforced, because if I don't speak English, because there's a lot of Mexicans there, migrant workers, and and I'm like, they're not wearing their masks, and some of them are like strapping it on their face as tight as they can, just
below
like,
their nose,
and double mask, and everybody that was masked, all the mask Nazis got COVID, and so when I pulled mine down, they're like, company policy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, company policy. And I'm like, well, can I read the policy, please? Like, no, but it's company policy. All right, well, I tell you what, if you could just show me the company policy so I can read it, where I have to wear a mask even though I'm not sick, then we'll proceed from here. And he just goes, well, the CDC guideline. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's retarded.
Well, see,
I said it was retarded, and she fired me. She literally said, get out. I'm like,
man, it's in history. We've gotten to the point, Tim, where we, are being handed over by the government to corporations, and the president of the United States literally pressured corporations to in turn pressure us. Does that make sense? It's
yeah.
Who owns who? And so it is an IQ test. It's a matter of just having that will to be the last one standing, like you said, to keep going. But
strike, I'm gonna French kiss that bitch. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, it's just like,
right.
Whatever. Why give up? Why give up?
Well, let's talk about this now. We have a lot of people that are supposed to protect, our society, our buildings, our businesses, our homes, our families. People with jobs that are elected and hired to do these things. And that's the first breakdown, and where I feel that was the first bridge that was sabotaged, is that the people who normally would stand up to this kind of shit, you had mentioned Antifa, and it's all about taking out the support groups. And if you don't take out the support groups, then this Hydra has another tentacle.
Right.
And that was the first thing, is we allowed our people who aren't even, they speak in German dialectic when they speak, when they have that thick Austrian accent and that thick Hungarian accent.
Yeah.
And they are controlling our government.
I'm working on a good Klaus Schwab that's going to blow everybody away.
But that's the thing, brother, is that, this is all premeditated. You mentioned, Event 201. That was the dry run. That was the war game. That was as all this kicked off. For people who don't know, Event 201, was their basic war game for what we saw unfold with COVID, down to the tweets that social media influencers, and
absolutely.
And people don't know that. People don't understand that. But yeah, and
that lives Gates Foundation has a good understanding after a while, because there was like 6 months of me just bullhorning Scamdemic 1. I mean, I was putting full documentaries over the bullhorn and just walking around and driving around, making sure that it was heard.
I think Melinda knows the name Tim Lassley.
She might, and that's fine, and if I had anything to do with that, then that's good to know.
She knows she knows the name Jeffrey Epstein, and we know that she knows that, and so Well,
I mean, honestly, dude, I've been expecting a drone strike or a strike team to show up and just snuff me out. I mean, I don't know why they haven't done it yet. I mean, whether that I've earned respect and I'm a player on the field, because here's a hint, everybody. The more you get in the arena, the more you have your enemies' respect, and the less they fuck with you.
Yeah.
Okay. They fuck with the normies. They fuck with the people that they can fuck with because they can fuck with them. But if you're in the arena and you can't really be fucked with, not only do you gain the respect of the local protection, the police, but you get their protection. And that's that I think that I have acquired, is that I have a little bit of protection in the city.
Right.
So I haven't gone around and tried to trash the city. We've been peaceful. We were like Gandhi up in this.
You're known by your fruits. You are known by your fruits, and so hey.
It's making leftist triggered is something I love to do. I love to push buttons, because I know that there's a button to push, and I want to push it to where we meet in the middle, because I don't want to have a disagreement. We all have a good opinion. We can all have difference of opinions, but when we're led astray and we have because human beings have this competitive edge to it, where conflict and drama arise, and there's no point, especially in these types of situations. So I was telling Antifa back when, remember that punch that Rufio knocked out that dude? This is my genesis, is when there was a huge rally in Portland right after Rufio knocked that dude out because the nation thought that Proud Boys needed protection or they needed more numbers because Antifa was just incredibly embarrassed, and we knew that they doubled down. We knew
Sure.
they doubled. So we did a in-your-face rally and stuff, and we brought a bullhorn, and both crowds were passive. We were just talking about amongst ourselves and stuff like that. And my friend Jason disappeared, and he went to go dance with Tiny and Rufio and all those guys. And I just had this bullhorn, and I just started on that crowd across the street. And before I knew it, they'd turned into a murderous mob just by hearing the truth. Hearing my pleas. I'm like, come to your senses. I was once one of you. Look at what's going on. Who's Koi Bono? Who stands to gain from all this?
Right.
You're just being useful fucking idiots like I was at one point in time. But do you know anything about the Federal Reserve? Stuff like that. And it just like I was like, wow, this is effective. And I was like, I got to the point where let's just see how murderous you've become. And I realized it. And so I tried to walk across the street, and all of a sudden 500 people came at me. It was just like the whole sidewalk moved like an army ant, a bunch of army ants. And I was like, wow, it works.
So-
they're not they don't have control of themselves. We can make them act. They can show up, but then they're our puppets for the world to see.
So let me ask you this: you sound like you have your ear to the to the ground there with Antifa. Have they changed? Are there cracks? Or is it still? Do they now see what all this this shit that they have been promoting all this time has gotten us to this literal hell on earth? Are they enjoying their $6 a gallon gas and everything like that? Do they love it?
Yes. They don't want an America. They're hired. They get paid off the side. And see, Antifa's got a little international support. They've got the UN.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I think they are happy as long as the agenda continues. They're employed. So there's job security in just being Antifa. And the ones that are showing up still, you have to factor in that they're probably murderous scum at this point that are totally committed, and there's no hope, if they're showing up in an Antifa garb, because the world, has a way of showing itself, and if you can't see it, especially now, I mean, wow.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. What was it? Almost 800,000 dead. Millennials are dying at rates that they've. Yeah, I mean. And that's all them. So if they're seeing their friends die from COVID and they're still putting on the black mask and shit and saying, death to America, all that stuff. So I mean, yeah, I would expect them to be just as dangerous as a soldier with orders that has no. Because I mean, I'm pretty sure there's retribution if they don't act in the crowd. I mean, I'm sure that there's handlers watching them, making sure. So I mean. If the soldier doesn't obey orders, what happens to them?
Well, they're accountable. They're held accountable. So.
Yeah, that's the type of mentality I think that they have. They're very.
Gotcha.
They were radicalized in 2017. We couldn't talk them down. There was nothing had really happened. George Floyd riots hadn't even happened yet. It was just a discussion about ideology and stuff, and we're just trying to point out how stupid they were. But they were more focused on just, social issues to roust up a civil war. That's all they wanted to do, just fire.
I mean, was it sort of? And forgive me, I'm not an expert on it, but was it sort of another Arab Spring? Only, I guess the social technology, the everything like that. I mean, it seems to me like the same blueprint. Maybe was applied here. I mean, would you say that's?
I would
correct?
Say it was spring. It's a coordinated effort to take down infrastructure and replace it.
See, and And that's what gets me, Tim. I mean, we have, it's again, it's not a theory at all. It you can actually look and see that it's happening. The way that it was organized, the Event 201s, the Agenda 21s, the Agenda 2030s, all the white papers Alex has talked about over the years. I mean, that's actually, you can't deny that science. It's right there in front of you. And so, to sit here and say that this somehow isn't happening to people, again, and call us conspiracy theorists, throw it all under that blanket and whistle past the graveyard. I mean, it's to me, I think it's kind of old. And
well, yeah, you still need something to say that keeps them out of the arena.
Well, you're in the 3D arena. And that's, see, because the digital reach doesn't really work anymore. This
5,000 followers, and you spend a month and a half trying to figure out how to get them back.
Right. Yeah. Like, who you know what? Jesus had 12 or 13 or loyal followers. So I mean, and I'm not saying that I'm Jesus, but it's going to happen. Truth is going to find an ear. You just have to voice it. You just have to say it. And you're in the 3D arena. They can't shadow ban that.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Is that we're trying to focus locally. I mean, it's great to talk about national politics because it doesn't really have the bite, and being local,
right?
And it's hard work. I'm working 6 days a week now.
Sure.
Just put posters and promoting stuff and going to meetings and stuff. It's a lot of work, and it's consuming. But you realize that you're becoming a part of a new government or a new understanding where we're not going to be thrown in the wood chipper. I have hope. I can see like this little small sliver of like sunlight on the horizon in my mind because
right.
We're putting effort. We're advancing towards that goal. America has got so many problems. Like the global infrastructure is so fucked up. Oh, it's so fucked up. And I think the way to solve it is, like the best, but let's go back to the predictive programming. When in V for Vendetta, when he mailed out all the masks, and he made everybody show up, and he somehow encouraged people to show up, but they didn't have to at the same time. They were in the mask, and so it's weird how you were supposed to figure out a way to do that, or is that like an effect? Because a lot of people are sitting on their asses waiting for Jesus, and a lot of people are sitting on their asses thinking that their guns are going to save them. And I'm like, damn. I mean, they're just advancing towards this to where they can hem you in a box, and you can't do anything about it, and shut off your food supply, and nobody's coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've wasted, like, time is more precious than Bitcoin. It's so gold right now because we still have an opportunity to form a large maw of fucking human beings. And this is in my brain, like a Boston Tea Party everywhere, literally. I mean, we're done. Be done with eugenics. Be done with the New World Order. And that's kind of like where I'm trying to get people at,
I think it's important. I want to know, and this is something that in just kind of preparing for the talk with you, I want to know if my local television station, I want to know who in my state of West Virginia took Biden money to promote how safe these vaccines are. I need names at this point. And then I want to give them, I don't want to harm anybody, but I want to give them to my attorney general. I think, I want to give them.
Your attorney general also took money. So that's the whole point. We have to come up with legislation, some sort of like anti-immunity legislation that makes this all go away, because they're all like pointing the finger at the other person, thinking that as long as it's this finger pointing, something won't get done.
I mean, where was the conversation? Anywhere in the House, where did the people's representatives ever talk about the, all of these agreements that we signed just so everybody could take an experimental jab? All of these.
But that's the experimental emergency authorization. That's what gave them all this carte blanche bullshit,
Yeah.
and it doesn't work. I mean, it's just words
No.
put on paper. It doesn't work. If you're not going to honor the Constitution, words put on paper, then I don't have to honor your
Nothing
EA
is valid.
on paper. Simple as that. And so you don't have immunity. So if I don't have human rights, you don't have immunity. That's how this works. Pretty much.
And
and I think that's the most American thing I can think of right now to say is if we don't have our Constitution, you don't have immunity.
Right. What's Roger Stone say? We're either a nation of laws or we're a nation of men, or something like that. I mean, it's they're not playing by the rules.
Laws. We're not a nation of men. We're a nation of laws. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's true. And like the fluoride thing is the big. It's like for me, it's like going back as far as I can in history, pointing it out to leftists. And it works. Tell you, if you guys wanted to brush up on your fluoride facts and figure out how heinous it was, like trying to talk your liberal friend off the tree of COVID and Ukraine, talk about what's happening to them.
So,
relate back to them.
What does somebody look for, in a city council meeting, or when they want to go in and they want to talk about fluoride and everything? I mean, what are the things activists should know? People who are hearing this and going, shit, fluoride.
They should know about the JAMA reports done. They should know about the Harvard medical studies done in 2012, where it shows an IQ point reduction. It shows that it's a cancer causer. They can show that it causes renal failure, liver failure, organ damage. There's all these intended side effects that it does, and it's done on purpose. It's priming the body for sickness.
And as I understand it, Tim, it isn't the acceptance of fluoride into the water system tied to other money and things like that as well? I mean,
kickbacks and stuff like that. The water district manager probably gets kickbacks. They don't have to house the toxic waste, because the way it was described to me, this documentary's pointed out, especially the best one to watch, get some facts on it, is the Great Culling, and it goes over the water fluoridation coming out of Florida, and not fluoride comes out of Florida, but because it's there's a lot of fluoride next to phosphate, and so whenever you're getting phosphates, you're getting fluoride, by the way. So that's why they say phthalate free. That's a form of phosphate. That's also a form of fluoride. So look for that stuff. But I just dove into the chemical things. The worst. Okay, so it's not just fluoride, it's hydrohexafluorosilic acid. And that's a brand name, like Pepsi Cola is a brand name for, whatever concoction comes out, and then you just put it in and say Pepsi Cola. But it's also a brand name. So sodium fluoride is a brand name, right?
Sure.
For hydrohexafluorosilic acid, which you don't want to put in your water. Nobody wants to put hydrohexafluorosilic acid in your water because fluoride. So, but fluoride is supposed to be good for your teeth. And so doctors have been going along with this psyop of poisoning the public for their health since then.
Right.
Well, they've been doing it with cigarettes. They've been doing whatever they get paid to do.
They've done it with eggs and milk and butter. I mean, for the American Heart Association. I mean, that's a whole nother episode there. But
I'm saying Rockefeller destroyed medicine and health.
Yeah,
and
petrodollar.
Before we were born, he didn't wait until us were born. So I mean, that's the America I want to go back to, is before the Rockefellers. I don't care if it's lights out or but we can't do lights out, because like Jones is saying, Jones is 100% correct when he says that if the power plants go off once the grid goes down, because they're tied to the electrical system. Their backup generators are. Most of them are, and if they're not, they only have 40 hours of backup
fuel
on hand.
Yeah.
40 hours before meltdown after grid failure. Right? So here's to Alex was right. 100%. I'll drink to that. That's what happens when a power plant goes down. It goes boom, and we're all downwind. And I think that was like I wrapped that in my head with Trump. It's like, why isn't he doing anything? Why isn't he arresting anybody? And I'm like, you know how much deadfall shit they can do to us right now?
Yeah.
You know, if like he started moving on them, all they'd have to do is blow up the power plant that it sits on New York City, you know, where all his family is. You know, and they would do some stuff like that because I think they did that with Fukushima in order to prime the public for the sickness 10 years down the road.
Right.
You know, Fukushima was definitely an ELE, false flag, New World Order weapon. I'm sorry, but all the research shows all of it.
Yeah, it's you know, and that, you know, to hear them talk about the survivability of nuclear war and you know, the just all the crazy shit that just every day I just wake up and I always wonder what's it going to be today? What's the next
survive a nuclear weapon is only watch television, and they haven't done the research.
Right.
It's you've got all right. So the lifespan of all right. Let's do some math. The Russians trained the mitigators. Forgot their name. They had a specific name. This the Chernobyl workers, the Chernobyl 500. They trained these dudes for 3 weeks to do 5 minutes worth of work, and a lot of them died just after exposure. Fukushima is 1,000 times hotter as far as radioactivity than that. So what Japan has been doing is it's been kidnapping all the homeless. The Yakuza have been taking all the homeless off the streets and then been making them work at Fukushima, mopping stuff up, you know, making sure that all the valves are dry. Because when you have a wet valve, it causes, because here's the thing, and this is going to go a little bit where you didn't know it was going to go, but with like,
no, it's cool.
Population control and population elimination, you know, things like Fukushima with them storing all that storage water.
Right.
You know, they've got water tank farms across the entire complex now, and they're running out of room, and they're running out of time because the radiation eats the metal, and so eventually these things are going to just start popping. Because radiation is going to go through, and so they've been just using homeless people in order to just do, you know, suicide maintenance jobs.
Sure.
You know, and that's why I want to, because that's fucking evil, isn't it? That's pretty evil. So I think that's what Barack Obama should do. I think that after the crimes against humanity trials go off and they're all found guilty, if we all came to our senses, like we should sentence them to, I mean, if we don't want to kill them, you know, because like, oh, you know, whatever, fine. Send them to Fukushima and give them a mop bucket and done with it, you know, and let them have their last 2 weeks of life, because that's what will happen to most life after 2 weeks. You're done.
Yeah.
Dirty bombs like nuclear power plants that's contain concentrated isotopes. Your isotopes aren't being consumed in a gamma blast. You know, they linger. Not only do they linger, they pick up and they travel with you. Not only do they do that, but the winds pick them up. They put them on trees, and when trees burn down, they redisperse.
It's like a hot knife through butter, basically, isn't it? I mean,
forever.
Yeah.
I mean, tiny hot knife. Like,
almost as tiny as the spike protein in the COVID. Almost as tiny and short, but
you know, and a lot of the times when I see all these COVID idiots, you know, I look back at the time when I was a mitigator for Fukushima because I thought it was a real threat, and I did the masks and I did the nitrile gloves, you know, and I made sure I didn't social distance. You know, I wasn't afraid of anybody, but if they touched my kids, they better have washed their hands because it was all over us. You know, we had uranium in our air 8 days after Fukushima, and I did Geiger tests in Redmond, Washington. And I got 35,000 counts per minute on my Geiger counter, and that's like, you're dead. Just run, just run.
Really?
And so, yes. So I've been like black pilled on that, knowing that what's going on is straight depopulation, and just trying to figure out, because I like branding, and I like the sorcery of language. It's very interesting to me. So just trying to be crafty and creative enough and charismatic enough to convince somebody to think a different way.
Sure.
Like, how do you do that? And like, all right, it's time to survive. Well, I don't want to survive. There's so many people. And like, well, wait a second. Why is there too many people? Who told you that? And so we have to unpack the whole package, but you have to do that with everybody, right?
Mhm.
You have to find that one thing that they can identify with, whether it's, chemtrails, fluoride, central banking, foster care mutilation, sand fleas and dogs, there's gotta be something, right? There's gotta be something. If not, they're a Bolshevik,
Right.
fucking Bolshevik, and they're plotting your death. So
Correct.
those are your battle lines, right?
Anything? Is there anything? I guess when you talked to Alex that you didn't really have I know that some of those segments were, you only have so much time to say everything. Is there anything you didn't get to say? Anything you want to say that we haven't talked about? Anything, just I want your message to be heard loud and clear. I'm going to host this on my actual server instead of the other social media platforms.
Podcast. How am I doing? I mean,
dude, you're great. You are a very well spoken person. So and like I said, you're very authentic. You always have been. On your broadcasts, your live streams, and you're the man in the arena, as Alex likes to say. So that's what I like to do. I want to bring the story of the American patriot. I want to chronicle that in any fashion that I can for as long as I can. So.
Man, that's awesome. What I would have said to Alex, I would have thanked him for going to the Georgia Guidestones. That's the one thing I think I'm the one that started tweeting it before Rob. They were doing that caravan stop the steal, and they were touring up to Georgia, and I was like, "Yo, two birds, one stone. Get the normies associated with Georgia Guidestones, because that's something that really." That's spooky shit, and and they might not understand it, but it's a good eye opener, and so they got that. I would say don't defend your position as much as he has, because he's always apologetic. He's always apologizing for his fury and his fire, but I think it's God sent. That he's just like this portal of energy coming out, and sometimes it's theatrical, and a lot of people can cast shade like, oh, he's just a vitamin salesman and stuff. But you know what? I know what it takes to run a business, and it takes a lot of effort.
Right.
And if you're just stuck on selling vitamins, and that's the whole thing with Alex. I wanted to thank him for just like his vitamins and stuff. He's not doing anything to.
No.
Like take advantage, because they do work. They're actual good formulas.
They're fantastic.
That's it. And and so I wanted to thank him for having that vision, and also I wanted to ask him if he wanted to go nationwide, and I will do all of the West Coast repping. I will make sure that every single shelf and from San Diego to Vancouver, BC is stocked full of InfoWars Life products. I will hire an InfoWars army, and I will make sure that happens. See, that's the thing that I think he could do, is his products are so awesome, is rebrand,
Yep.
and then bring them into the actual market. But we have to beat Klaus Schwab, which is nothing.
Yeah. I mean, and you're right. I just want to say something, Tim. You were talking earlier about how to bring everybody together. I know exactly what it is. It is Wake Up America coffee. I don't care where you're at on the spectrum, whether you're far left or whether you're far right. It's Wake Up America coffee. Everybody loves it. I'd love to. I don't know, how old you are, if you remember the old Dawn You're Soaking in It things, but I'd love to see somebody at a Walmart with coffee, where they're pouring, brand X and then, this mystery coffee. Well, which one do you prefer? Well, it's Alex Jones coffee. And just watch the liberal heads explode,
See, that's the thing, is that, we could go and we could take back that nostalgic marketing and, and bring it out in the streets. Alex has got gold in his hands.
It's great stuff. It is, man. It's great stuff.
All of it is. And I mean, I've tested the bodies, and I've had to go through back pain, and body took it away. I was a landscaper last year because I got fired from. I used to work at Amazon because they had a really good schedule. Sorry,
Right.
and I got fired the day before the corporate office showed up to find out why my building was the lowest in the state of Washington for vaccines. Oh, sorry.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bad. So I had a lot to do with that because I didn't keep my mouth shut. And a lot of guys were like, they were, excuse me, they were working with their masks. And I cheated the system because I went into unloading trucks, by hand. And they're like, well, and I just took the mask off immediately, like I'm social distance. I'm like, you're stupid anyway for making me think that I'm gonna put this mask on my face and try to do this, but no, taking it off. And I got a lot of confrontation, and then a lot of people saw that I was doing it day in and day out, and I got a lot of people to take off their masks when they were working and stuff, and just encourage it. We started talking and stuff, and so I told everybody not to take it. Everybody was confused, and I was just trying to ring the alarm with anybody within reach. And apparently it worked because nobody took the shot. It fired my ass, and so I had to become a landscaper. And I had a stash of bodies, man. In my first week, just chopping up the dirt and stuff like that, wasn't used to it. Kicked my ass.
Right.
Fine, took it away. Thank you, Alex.
I don't know if you remember Beyond Tangy Tangerine or if you've ever had it, but
I didn't get a chance to try that, but I heard it was really.
Back in the day, I mean, it's been that far back, but that's how long the products, even just people coming on talking about the benefits of putting, the apple cider vinegar in your water, just kind of energizing your water and whatnot. I mean, just little tips, man. It's always been about the listener and their health and their freedom, and and again, you know them by their fruits.
Yeah, and when anybody comes to Jones or comes after Jones, be like, "Oh, he works for Israel," and I was like, "Why does Israel want me to be healthy? Why does Israel want me to not have fluoride? I mean, I don't get the benefit." So it's all about Israel. I'm like, it's dude. All he's talking about is anti-eugenics. So I don't really get it. He talks about politics when politics are here, but his core message is, "Don't be murdered by the New World Order. Don't take their soft kill weapons."
That's it.
Always been his core message. It's not it's always been about, and that's why I'll never stop supporting Alex. I know he's taking those and stuff. And I took those along with him.
Even I mean, and I think that's the thing. I think you're doing what he wants to see. I mean, I can't speak for the man, but I think you're doing what he wants to see. Even if there was no Alex Jones, even if tomorrow, God forbid, something happened. There's still going to be people on the street in the 3D arena still out there carrying the torch. And that, I think at the end of the day, that's all you can do, man. I really think so.
I mean, I'm banging on their front door basically. But I'm only, America, at least in my city, I mean, the tiniest balls, America has the tiniest balls in the world right now. Look at Australia. Balls are huge,
right.
But they're disarmed, right? So they've got no choice. They're way past the point of no return. They know that, so they have to show up in mass numbers. And so I think Canada showed up. They're not so disarmed as I thought, but still, I thought it was a really good gesture. But I mean, America needs to show up in numbers. Turn your Xboxes off. Put your phones down. Your social media account isn't doing what needs to be done. It's not. Mine wasn't either. I mean, I was getting follows by like Craig Sawyer and was it Tony Schaefer and stuff, but I didn't get Craig Sawyer or Tony Schaefer to say anything about the vaccines. Sure. I'm fire on my social media, but I didn't get through to them, and you're not going to get through to them. You're not going to get. So you have to get through to the general masses, so the general masses gets through to everybody else.
Right.
We have to become the consenting opinion. Form up and fall in line is basically what it is.
How do people find you? How do they, get in touch with you? How do they support you in the real world?
Well, right now you can go to this website, marchforfreedom.com, WA, and marchforfreedom.com, and support that effort if you wanted to. I'm working with them, a bunch of local grassroots activists that, saw this from a different angle. They didn't know anything about Alex. They knew everything about liberty and freedom and stuff. And so, They formed this big ass network of people. I'd say there's 1,000 of us in the city. Spent a lot of money of their own money, donated a lot of time for materials, signage, T-shirts, just getting the word out. And we're now promoting this March flyer. Put it back. Promoting this, I just did the Lennon statue. Yes, police officers, it was me. I admit to it. I did it. I'm just like that guy. Alex goes, I did it. It was me. But
Right.
we covered the Lennon statue in Seattle with these posters to promote the march. It's going to be probably the biggest, even if Bill Gates decides to chemtrail, because that's what he's been doing, bro.
Sure.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just watching what's happening. And ever since we had 2 huge rallies. We had one in Seattle with damn near 900 people, and we had one in Bellevue, Washington, which is the city across the way. About 800. So we're having an effect, and that's huge numbers for this city. It's huge. People don't want to come out of their shell, and now people are. And so ever since then, it's been ice fog through chemtrails. It's been really super cold and wet and rainy. But even if Bill Gates decides to do that, we're still going to show up in numbers, and we're going to keep that. The state, we're going to put them on notice. We're not going to let them. We're not going to let them balk on the mandate. Sure, they relieve them for a while, but sure, what's going to happen? Mouse pox, cow pox, whatever.
Deltacron, isn't that the new one? The Deltacron.
Well, whatever reason they come up with to continue the EAU,
Right.
Because that's what they do. They're fucked. They can't
Right.
do any. So we know it's going to happen. We think we're the ones that got it pushed back early. There was a lot of people. Then she's sending out, she's got lawyers involved. Her name's Vicky Palmer. Look for her, because if she gets discovered, she'll probably lead an army to Valhalla for sure. I mean, just total fire. I mean, she's got it down. And I could see her doing great things. This kind of that's the thing, is that there's been such an awakening with people, and I'm sure they war gamed for it on Event 201. We're like, there's going to be a bunch of people pushing back. We got to worry about protesters and stuff. But they didn't realize the human potential, because they have none themselves, right? And that's the thing, is that what we can do. And she's got a lot of it. I've got a lot of it. There's millions of others that are just now coming into their own,
Right.
and that needs to happen, is we need to get together. We need to get off our asses and encourage people to just show up by showing up ourselves.
Yeah.
And I hope people. What I would say to Alex before I got off the air is I demand that if you spend any money at InfoWars and blah blah blah, you go to the UN, you go to the Rockefeller Center, you go to somewhere, you get loud, you get consistent.
Bullhorn. Yeah.
You don't even have to have a bullhorn. You just have to have fire in your heart and know that you're on the right side of history and what you're doing is correct. And your voice is loud. People will hear you. They'll resonate with you. And they're going to try and be like, hey, I know somebody that wants to help. Hey, I know somebody that wants to help. Hey, I know somebody can donate some materials. And it becomes, just like what's going on in Seattle. If this is happening in Seattle, it can happen in Arizona, Pennsylvania, Texas, everywhere.
Sure.
This is what needs to happen. I think that's what the InfoWars army was supposed to be. It was just a bunch of grassroots activists that were red-pilled and knew what they had to do in order to at least fight off the New World Order. We didn't expect it would happen this way. We spent a lot of time infighting, and that's the thing about right wing, is they infight far too much. And whether or not that's by design, we got infiltrators and stuff. But if you can find a group that doesn't infight and just stays positive, right? And don't think you're doomed, because you're not. You're doomed if you think you're doomed. I'm not doomed. You're not doomed. We're going to survive this. And have that kind of because we are doomed if we don't, right?
I mean, yeah, there's no running from this, Tim. At this point, it doesn't matter what side you think you're on. There is no safe side of the road for this. It's a huge steamroller, and it's coming. And it doesn't care who you are, who you were. If you like the steamroller before it got to you and ran you over, it doesn't matter. It's coming for you as well. So yeah.
Americans can't see. Before my ancestors, a lot of people's ancestors, they got on a boat and they fled. They're like, fuck this place, right? We can't do that. We cannot get on a boat and go to China or Korea or the Philippines and start a new civilization. We have to stand our ground and fight.
Yeah, and I think it starts with laws as well, protection from technocracy, from protection from corporatocracy, oligarchs. We need to. The American people need to send a strong message. These rhinos, these people with, like you said, no balls, who are supposed to be representing, we the people. It needs to stop. There needs to be a clear message that we're not for sale. We don't belong to corporate people. Jeff Bezos can't come in and tell you have to take an experimental gene therapy for you to unload fucking boxes from his truck. He doesn't own you. Especially in West Virginia, a right to work state or whatever. How many people are going to be working for Amazon 6 years down the road? You know what I'm saying?
It'll be robots by then. Yeah. That's the next crisis down the pipe. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, is robots. But I mean, I agree. We have to just be loud. I mean, this is our time to be Americans. Like, summon up your ancestral history and your birthright and get loud. I'm not saying be violent, and I'm not saying, because there's a lot of people that are like, let's just cut their heads off and throw it down the street, and because they've done so much evil, they've gone. And I'm like, no, because then we'll become warlords, we'll regress far to something, and they probably want that. Like, that's a failsafe for them. Then they might have a contingency to take control of that if we fall into such bedlam, right?
Yeah.
So I think we need to do it by the laws we already have in the books, right?
Well, you mentioned the power of words, and I think the First Amendment. There's a lot to the First Amendment, but it's I think it's ranked there as number one for a reason. And words are powerful. They can build, they can destroy, they can make you feel good, they can make you feel bad, they can make you feel happy, they can make you feel fear. They're incredibly powerful. I think the only other more powerful medium is when you take those same words and you add music to them. But then they become enchanted.
Scripture's powerful too. And
absolutely. But yeah, the Psalms, things like that. But absolutely. But I'm saying as a medium, when you're using it as a weapon for. But,
yeah, I agree. But, it's like, do we need another Grammy Award winning artist to lead us away? Or we need to be, I don't know, man. It's like, I love music too. And that's all I do is I jam out,
right.
And sit here and hypothesize what I'm going to do next and stuff. But still at the same time, I just, it's like the voice in the silence hits me harder than music lately. It's just like, and I can zen out and center in on it. And, I feel alive. I don't feel alive in the system unless I'm opposing it. And I don't know how anybody can say that, I mean, your motocross shit and all that stuff, that's all going to get taken away. You ain't going to have it anymore. And now what? What are you going to do? There's thrill seeking, and then there's thrill seeking. And I'm telling you, engaging people in the real world. And it's like, that's where my endorphins come from. That's my drive now. I'm part of the system as far as like, I need that recharge.
Resistance.
And it's liberating to get to that point where you're epigenetic. All of our ancestors, they climbed through the worst fucking environment known to man at that time through history, just to make sure that we had the opportunity to roll up our sleeves,
survive.
or survive. And so we have to you unlock that when you're surviving, and so I encourage everybody to get loud and
Absolutely, man. Resistance. I mean, that's what life is. I mean, life is resisting, that decay, that entropy. That's what sets life apart. Is that it flourishes in a state of natural entropy. So And that's it. Resistance is life, brother, and you're doing it.
It is, but I'm trying to build a crowd. I'm not trying to do it by myself. No man is an island in this.
Sure.
It's going to be a large, just a front of people, front line of thousands and thousands of people. Go to the Bilderbergers, go to Davos, go to their offices, look up, you can Google World Economic Forum office and find out they got offices in San Francisco and in Maryland. You can find out where these people go to work, and they have you can't just let their day continue because I'm not.
Wouldn't it be funny if everybody descended upon someplace like Bohemian Grove, just out of the blue, just unannounced, just like everybody just show up in those towns, or Davos, or wherever.
Free speech. We have the right to assemble. Free speech. You can't take it away from us.
I was in Richmond when the Second Amendment rally happened. And, I recorded that, I chronicled that, and I got to meet Alex there. That was cool as shit. But that's the one thing about it is, you're in a crowd of 50,000 armed people, and, it's peaceful. Everybody is polite. Imagine that.
That's how back in the day, before sugar took hold, we were all polite to each other. We were all equalized, and that's we can go back to that very easily. It's almost a few months away if we really wanted it, to equalize society back to where it was. Because the social contract isn't what you think it is, and I've kind of stopped thinking that it's even real. It's almost like you become an outlaw, and if you want to treat me like an outlaw, then I guess I get to behave like one too. And it's just really how it's unfortunate, but those are the natural progressions of being in the arena is that we have to risk life and limb, liberty, and everything like that for the cause. Because my kids, do you have kids, sir?
I do, sir. I do.
Yeah.
I do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they need an umbrella of protection. Throughout time. It's not just one day you show up and you're just like, yeah, I saved you guys. Yeah, no, we have to do all this.
Yeah. Just a little side note, and I know we've kind of ran long. I don't know how much time you set aside, man. So, if you
forever, that's my superhero
well,
skill.
But I just, we're what, going on 2 years into this, and, I just found out that my daughter took the first shot, snuck off. She's 17, and that's been probably the hardest thing for me as a parent. Just to see it. And I won't even go down the whole thing, but that I'm just going to say, and that's why we're when we talk about Nuremberg, it's real, and everybody at some point is going to have somebody that they're going to be lighting a candle or holding for, or just saying you forced.
My mom got clots immediately. Her cancer came back.
Man.
She's all boosted up, right? she's so indoctrinated to it. There's so many people, but I'm so sorry about your daughter. Hopefully she's okay. But it was that nurse Kathy that was convulsing so hard.
Oh yeah.
Remember her? And she spent 7 months like that before she died.
And you can't talk about it. You can't say this.
It's not polite conversation to talk about the shit that's going on, but
verboten. It's verboten.
Yeah.
So
I got in a conversation with my sister last night, and it was just over Russia, and I was just like, well, that might not. And then before I even had a chance, I just put doubt in her, Ukraine and fuck Putin, and I was like, before I just even had the chance to say, I just had a doubtful tone in my voice, and she started screaming at me, and I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. We
can't talk anymore with these people because they're so traumatized, and it's now the reality. But the victims, there's nobody to speak for them, and we can be that. We can be not only the voice for the victims, but a voice for the people in the future that need protection now.
Yeah. Well, and I liken it to being thrown off a ship and everybody's in the water and some people are flailing around, and you have the ability to kind of hook them and kind of swim to a point where you can get them onto something, but all they want to do is fight. All they want to do is flail. All they want to do is drag you down with them. And, it's at some point,
how do you hug them in that fight and tell them it's okay? How do you embrace that and be like, take all those arrows, because they're throwing arrows at you. I mean, the system, like, they took my kids. I mean, all they had to do was say Alex Jones, and the family court judge totally changed his demeanor.
Oh, wow. Oh my God.
Yeah, no. It was, and this was like 5 years ago. My ex just said he listens to Alex Jones and he changed my diet. Oh, I bought organic food. Fuck off,
Wow.
And that's all they said. And the judge just threw the book at me, and I went from being a full-time father to I had like 8 hours a month.
Yeah.
Just because of my politics. And I watched him change. I watched him perk up like he had somebody to persecute. And
sure.
And so, I mean, we have to install those arrows.
Again, I would dig in, and I bet maybe he had some type of Open Societies Foundation money or some type of PAC, some type. I mean, that's what I'm saying. And I just want to make this clear. And like I said, I know we've ran long, but I just want to make this clear. Anybody who has helped willingly, consciously, or who now understands or sees what they've done and continues to propagate this, there is a train coming. There is a list being made. You are going to stand you are going to stand trial for this. At some point, it's coming. If I'm breathing, if I'm drawing breath, again, there's no point
turning myself to do it. I'm going to do it. That's
I mean it. And so, yeah. So God bless you, dude. God bless you for.
One more thing I wanted to talk about real quick. You asked me what I would have said on Alex Jones, and
go for it
with the UN. And I don't want to run over, but here's the
thing. Go for it.
But treaties with the UN. Okay, Patrick Gaspard. Let's. In my endeavors in getting Antifa arrested several weeks in a row, and I did, but they always got out, and I'm like, the fuck, why are you getting out of jail? Why are you getting charges? Why are you fighting with cops in the middle of broad daylight and not getting charges? And then when Wheeler went on the news and said Antifa wasn't a threat, but the Proud Boys driving with their pickup trucks and their dogs were
Joe Biggs.
All right, yeah. Biggs used my bullhorn. He used the one. Joe Biggs used this bullhorn at that rally.
Yeah.
So I started doing some research, and I found out I just did Ted Wheeler United Nations. That was the search term, and I found out that a lot of the Democrat mayors throughout the United States and throughout basically the world, a lot of the big city mayors have signed treaties against their nation with the United Nations. It's called the C40 Cities Initiative, and you should look into it. And it's also involved with the Mayor's Migration Council. And the C40 Cities Initiative is headed up by Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, right? And it's also headed up by Patrick Gaspard, who is Obama's former South African ambassador, who helped radicalize Julian in South Africa, that started off all that white genocide shit going on there with the Afrikaners. Right. But also, because you listen to this guy on YouTube, his videos are all over the place. You listen to him, and he hates white people. Oh my God, he hates colonialists.
Right.
Right?
Colonizers.
He was the president of Soros's Open Society Foundation, and he started running all these treaties with the UN, right? And so that's why Antifa and BLM are not catching charges in the United States. It's because they're operating under some sort of diplomatic immunity. All of them. It's a big, big network. There's a big ass network of UN agents in the United States. That tweet that there's two things that put this in my head as solid in cement. Being in the Chaz, infiltrated it twice. I carried the American flag in, but I infiltrated it once incognito. But we went through just plain clothes, But when I infiltrated it, we were sitting in the middle of the soccer field, and me and my homie Lorenzo, I was like, hey, I gotta find it. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I gotta find it. And I was looking for like their propaganda. And I just knew that I noticed that I didn't see any flags flying. And I'm like, this is creepy, because you would think that there'd be some sort of group owning this, but there was one group owning this. And in the middle of all of their booths and tents and shit for the hospital and the soup kitchen, the UN had a booth inside Chaz, active. They were flying the UN's flag inside Chaz.
Were they giving away cards, anything like that?
They're giving away. They had all kinds of propaganda. They had all kinds of shit.
Right.
And so, that's where that is. I mean, so when UN tweeted in solidarity for Antifa's human rights and First Amendment claim, because they tried to say that burning cities down was First Amendment, and then they deleted it. You showed your hand. You deleted it, and so we just knew right there. So the C40 cities initiative. That's where the evil is. That's where they're getting all their money. That's where they're getting all their diplomatic immunity. That's where Democrats and Antifa collide, and you can start calling them Antifa-crats. Is right there.
Okay. One more thing that I wanted to ask you, and I'm glad you kind of circled back to Antifa. But as far as you always see the drones, but then you have the A-team leaders, or whatever they call themselves. Right. They usually have the nice cars. They're yeah. I mean, how as far, where do they come from? I mean, I guess, are they recruited off of these campuses, or, I mean, how do they get into it? How does this happen?
A lot of the old schoolers got into it through Occupy.
Okay.
Yeah, and
like Clean Water Action, everything like that, I guess. And okay.
So they've just been farming out candidates for operations ever since then.
And then they go and they I guess, again, it's like cancer cells.
Also, the DSA is really active. The Democrat Socialist of America, that's where a huge population of Antifa comes from. I mean, whoa. All of your state and local officials that you, quote unquote, would think are communists, they're also DSA members, I guarantee it. It's almost like you have to. Patrick Gaspard was also a DSA member. He was also best friends with Eric Wilhelm, a.k.a. Bill de Blasio, got him elected.
Can you imagine what kind of a world, Tim, we'd live in if law enforcement, the FBI, the CIA even, took a look at people who were orchestrating these type of things, as opposed to grandmothers who go into Capitol buildings with a flag? Can you imagine what kind of a fucking world we would live in? I mean, little birds flying around, people singing zippity doo dah. It's a small world after all,
Nobody would lock their doors.
No.
No, we would leave we'd have a gun rack there. We'd have our 30-06 in our truck at night. No problems, no fucks given. It would be back to America again.
I was going to say, I think we'd end up exactly back where you mentioned you wanted just to go. I mean, if they just upheld the laws and if they just morally did what was right for the people that they represent, instead of using those people as slaves and as tokens and pawns for the next rung that they climb. It's insane.
It's incentivized death. I mean, they don't get paid until we're dead, right? And that's what their mercs for, So I mean, yeah, I mean, the people caught in the middle that are quote unquote, and there's a video on Facebook where I got into the face of the leader of Seattle Antifa, and I was just like, man, you're just standing in the way of us saving millions. I fucking hate you for it, That's all you're doing. So you're there to make sure that we can't do anything to stop this. And that was like 2017. Or 2019 or something like that. But I mean, it's yeah, that's why they're there. They're Operation Human Shield. We're distracted by them, and we're so bedazzled by their hypocrisy and their lunacy that we focus on them, and then all of a sudden Bill Gates comes in and just jabs right into your arm, right? Just right into your arm. And they'll defend it, and they definitely defend it.
I can't get anybody from Antifa to talk to me. It's like, I think in West Virginia that they understand. I think they've seen enough to know that if they're in a holler somewhere here in West Virginia and they hear banjos, they ain't going to start no shit, because you hear a yeehaw and it's bad news after that, So
They've been ran out of several places where they thought that they could just terrorize a bunch of good old boys.
I've tried to Google map it. I've please, here, I'm going to Google map this for you. Come, but I don't know, dude. I don't know, man.
I would, yeah. I mean, I envy you because you're so far away from it, but yet you're kind of close to it too at the same time. I think if like the world collapsed, like the Pacific Northwest could survive on its own because of the fertile land.
Right. I was actually shocked though, Tim, because in all seriousness, I say that in jest, and God knows I don't want anybody showing up on my doorstep starting shit, because it's going to be bad. That's going to be bad times for everybody. But I mean, I have had them, when I was putting out Trump signs and everything like that. I mean, now I have to say that was eye-opening. I heard about it. I saw it happening on InfoWars. I heard about signs and anti-Trump violence and everything, but I had them literally come to my front doorstep and steal signs I had set out on my porch. They defaced my car. I mean, I saw that firsthand. And it's intimidation.
It is. I was severely intimidated. When they put my name out there. I mean, I went to a couple rallies, and by the time I got home, they had my name, they had my arrest record. And I was like, all right, you got everything. You're not worried about my ex, thinking that she was going to get fired from her job, but still, I was just like, if it happens, it happens. We'll just cross that bridge when we come to it. But when the riot showed up, and I'm number 2 on they have a published kill list, they all have. If we walk in, there's a bounty on me, there's a bounty on a few others. And this one's an actual murder kill list. And I'm number 2 on it. And Rufio's Zach Staggs, the other Proud Boy member, the guy that he's base as fuck. He was number 1, and then Rufio was number 3. Right. I was number 2 because it showed up with the bullhorn and just fucked him over with it hard. So when the riots were happening and all the police were distracted, I was sleeping in the living room with my weapons, making sure I had an elevated position. And if they decided to fuck around and find out, that it was going to be, me making sure everybody was fine. My ex was like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, yeah, maybe I should just be out here for a while.
Right. Yeah.
And then that, that was, was kind of weird for her, I guess. But, I took it as a legitimate threat. We're in a war, right? And we don't know what these punks are going to do. We don't know what kind of assholes. I mean, during the arson spree, dude, the guy that bought the bullhorn, they burnt his house down. They got his apartment, and then that day, I took a nap with I put my daughter down for a nap. I took a nap, and then I woke up, and there's like a fucking fire engine out my back door, and I'm like, the fuck is going on? And somebody had set a fire in my backyard. And we're like, wow.
If only we had the technology to trace these type of people, and if only we've done things like human domain mapping where we know what circles people run in and everything. I mean, and that's what gets me, Tim, and it's just, if they're talking on social media about it, and I know they mobilize through social media and apps and a lot, I mean, there's a point where that is more of a hindrance to them, because they can be hacked, they can be tracked, but nobody does anything. And that speaks more to me about who's behind this and why, because it should be easy to find these fuckers, flush them out, and prosecute them.
It should be, but, like with big tech, Fauci's daughter works for Twitter. Got their players where they need their players to be.
That's what I'm saying. It's all orchestrated. You can't say that it's not premeditated. But
it couldn't be premeditated is a million man march in every city. That's the only thing. That's the only spontaneous weapon system that we have.
You know what? We need to, instead of a million man march in every city, just everybody in their own cities locking down like a phalanx and saying no further. This right here and no further is as far as you're going to advance. And like you're saying, dig these people out. All these things, all these open societies people, all of them, man. Flush them out, hold them accountable, and say you have put into place and allowed to happen some of the most heinous things in American, and not even written yet, in American history, in world history.
Yeah, no, we are so past so past Buck Rogers. We're like we're at Event Horizon.
Oh, yeah.
We're in a portal of hell. And it doesn't. I mean, it's gonna happen, and we're all gonna have to sit there and watch the death toll. And it's gonna open up a lot of eyes. And I'm not necessarily certain on how significant the saline batches got out. I haven't really combed through howbadismybadge.com. I probably should. But there's a lot of things that I just don't want in my brain,
Yeah, I got you. I understand, dude. I understand. There's only so much you can process, only so much you can take. But dude,
where to go to get the information, but I don't want it all memorized in my head because it'll be there forever, and that's so I use the internet as like a guide versus just my own brain, so I know where to go. So if they scrub the internet, I'm fucked, but whatever.
Dude, I mean, like I said, I've been living my worst nightmare for the last 2 weeks. Like I said, what happened with my daughter, that was one of the final things I was fighting for. But I'm not going to stop, even if I have nothing left to stop, to fight for. I mean, it's on, motherfuckers. It's on. So game on.
First one? Is she on her first one only?
First one, yeah. She got it because she wants to travel. She's graduating this year, and she wants to travel. For a year, she's been planning this trip to Europe.
They were promised the world, and now they have like all these hoops they have to go through to get it.
Yeah, exactly. I said, when is it going to be enough? When are you going to be fully vaxxed? You're just it's going to be one of those Jane, get me off this crazy thing, because it's just that loop. You're just going to be you're stuck on it. Take your next one, or you're not fully vaxxed. But Tim, anything else? Man, I really
enjoyed this conversation. Yeah, it was great. Well, this is me. I'm nothing special. I'm just your average Joe that listened to Alex Jones and took it for heart, and I think my voice matters, and encourage, think your voice matters too, because it does. And the louder you are, the more it matters.
And when you take that voice and you make it political, that voice is louder than 1,000 registered voters. To those people in listening, you have the impact, you have the power of you have the gravitas of 1,000. Just voters, because because you're in the street, because you're vocal, because you're saying and you're doing the things that Tim is doing. I agree, man. Absolutely.
Don't do it because your team's losing. Do it for the people that we've already lost. Do it for those people, because we're gonna eventually be them too. Something's got to be done.
It's our greatest generation moment. This is our moment, so.
I mean, they say God, that God has a plan, but I also know that God doesn't love cowards. So, what if his plan is for us to? I mean, I've got all kinds of metaphysical interpretations of everything because of the situation I found myself in. Mm-hmm. But we're doing the Lord's work for certain, and I'm drawing on that. And there's a lot of doubt. I mean, 90 times. I've been there 90 times, and by around 20, I expected to be one of 12,000, just like fucking mad people there, but I'm still the only person showing, and I've got, there's other opportunities that I've come across and stuff, but it's just like, why do I keep going? What am I doing and stuff like that? But God's telling me it's working, it's having an effect.
Well, I mean, and you know what? Just listen to that voice. I think Roger Stone called it the still small voice of God. And so yeah, dude, just listen, and he'll guide you. I mean, then there may come a time where he says, no, you're done. You're done with that message. Here's where I want you. But wherever it is, dude, I know you're going to make an impact. And don't be a stranger, dude. I'll reach out to you. You reach out to me. One last thing, dude, if you want to do it, you don't have to. I have a little thing on the side, Powder Monkey Radio, where we just play, music and info clips and all kinds of stuff. If you want to record a bumper, a jingle, you certainly can. Say something like, "This is Tim Lassley. I want my Powder Monkey Radio," or something like that. However you want to put it together, and
Right.
I'll splice that in to the jingles.
You bet. All right. Hey, everybody. This is Tim Lassley, and I am definitely wanting my Powder Monkey Radio all the time. Powder Monkey Radio, 100% fire. Powder Monkey Radio, fire.
Yes, sir. You're the man, Tim. Greatly appreciate it. I'll get this put together, and like I said, probably go ahead and post it first thing in the morning. And thanks for all you do, brother. And fight the good fight. God be with you, man.
God be with you. God bless.
Purple shrines on our head. Phenobarbital makes us dead. To heaven's gate we will go. To climb up
for God, for country, for truth, for justice, for the Republic. You're listening to the Powder Monkey Podcast on PirateInfoWars.com.
The comets come.